Man, when Elijah just read that, I feel like right after he got done, like we ought to suit up and go. Don't you agree? I mean, the battle belongs to the Lord. And then, Stephen, did we talk about these songs ahead of time? We didn't, did we? But this is how the Lord works. I'll show you some more of that in a minute. Psalm 46. It's an incredible psalm. I believe it comes at a worthy time in our lives because we live in such a hectic time. Matter of fact, we have more ways to connect with people than ever before, and yet human-to-human relationships seem as shallow as ever. Rarely is there a time that we're sitting still and there is peace and tranquility and quietness. Many can't even find the time or the funds to get away and go refocus, not to mention an hour daily for study, for meditation and prayer. Many people do not think deeply anymore because our world is moving so fast, like we've become this headline nation. And instead of investigating things, we instantly believe whatever comes across our social media feed or our favorite news outlet. And boy, have we become slaves to the next chime, the next ding, the next notification. And it's so often that we feel like if only we could control our schedules, then we can control our problems. And yet, it's simply true that if we don't simplify our lives and our way of thinking and start making our lives about living with Jesus and serving in the kingdom versus making a good living, I'm just here to tell you today, things are going to get more turbulent in your life, and there are going to be more souls lost in the wake. So now I present to you Psalm 46. Psalm 46, written by the sons of Korah. Their father was Korah, and he was a descendant of Levi, the son of Jacob, Numbers 16 and verse 1. This psalm was actually a song written to be sung by God's people, probably during the time when God's miraculously delivered Jerusalem from King Sennacherib. It's a psalm where the famous verse 10 lies. Be still and know that I am God. Isn't that one you know? I mean, this is a psalm that's reminding and teaching God's people that God is the source of strength. God is the way of safety in times of trouble. A part of this psalm was written by Martin Luther in the 1500s, called A Mighty Fortress, page 73 in your psalm book. It's touched a lot of people. A lot of people who are troubled, like so many of us get today. So many troubled people in our world. So many troubled people in the church. Lots of people troubled because they don't feel like life is fair. Others are troubled because they can never get ahead financially, never get on top of their debt. Some because they have constant relationship problems. Many stay troubled because the nation is certainly not going in the direction that they think it ought to go. Still others because of the moral decline of our world and what will become of our grandchildren. And some are troubled because of the consequences of their sinful lifestyle. And then there are those of us troubled because we have not learned to fully put our faith in God for everything in life. So I want to investigate the psalm, and see what it can teach us as we embark on a new series on Sunday morning entitled, Be Still and... Here's what you should know about Psalm 46. Number one, you should know that the statement, be still, is equal to, or it means, to let drop. Be still and know that I am God. Most of us grew up being taught that Psalm 46 and verse 10 means to slow way down and be quiet. Wait for God to speak. Others of us were taught to sit a while and let God catch up to you so that you can know Him better. But the context of Psalm 46 actually teaches us what Psalm 46 and verse 10 really means. It's actually teaching God's people to stop fighting wars that they cannot win for themselves. No, what I'm telling you is that's the context. Listen closely. Verse 6. Nations are in an uproar. Kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice. The earth melts. All this mess going on. Nations going crazy. Kingdoms falling. And then God speaks. And it all melts. The Lord Almighty, verse 7, is with us. The God of Jacob, that's your fortress. Come and see what the Lord's done. Are you watching this? Come and see what the Lord's done. The desolations that He has brought on the earth. He makes wars stop to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear, and He burns the shield with fire. Listen, there are so many battles in your life and in this world that only God gets to fight and only God gets to win. You know why? Because you just sang it. The battle belongs to the Lord. But will you accept that? Because be still doesn't just mean sit and wait or be quiet. It means let it drop. Some translations say, stop striving. Cease striving. Let what drop? Your fears. Let your fears go. Let them drop. You're fretting. Let it drop. Your control over things that are not in your control, let it drop. Your negativity toward all of this, let it drop. The idea from the sons of Korah in Psalm 46 is this: drop your weapons and let God fight this. That's the message. That's the message in Psalm 46 and verse 10. Man, we ought to go to battle today, right? I mean, are you listening to this? Here's the second thing you need to know. Not just let it drop concept, but let's put the next one on the screen. Know that I am God. Here's what that means. Look to Him then. The Hebrew word know is yada, Y-A-D-A, yada. It means to know, all right, but it also means to perceive. To perceive something. To perceive what? Who God is in the middle of all this. And He tells us exactly what to be looking for. In chapter 46 and verse 1, what are you to perceive? Well, He shows you. He wants you to see where the shelter is. Sometimes in battle it gets so weary and even lonely, or you're so hurt that to just sit down where you are is going to get you killed. So what do you need to know then? Where the shelter lies. Where to go when you're troubled for help. And what does he say? Chapter 46 and verse 1. God is our refuge. God is our strength, a very present help in times of trouble. Drop it all and look to him. He will show you where the shelter is. He will show you where the strength is, verse 1. He will show you who remains in control when things are out of control, when things are changing, when there's upheaval in your life. God will show you that. Look at verse 2. Therefore we will not fear. The earth should change, and though the mountains slip into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam, though the mountains quake at its swelling pride, we're not at trouble because of all this. Why? Because God is in control in the middle of all this. His wisdom, his strength is present when all of these changes are taking place. And not just that, look who is in the center of everything. Verses 4 through 7. There's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy dwelling places of the Most High. Verse 5, listen closely. God is in the midst of her. She will not be moved. God will help her when the morning dawns. Verse 6, the nations make an uproar and the kingdoms totter. He raises his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. Look who's in the middle of all of it. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our stronghold. Stop taking God out of the middle of our world's problems. No, I'm telling you, Christian, you have issue with this. Taking as if it's your job to fix this world. Good luck. Join all the people that have been trying. It ain't your work. It ain't your job. You're not in control of that. That's not within your realm of fixing this world. But it's in his. He's right in the center. That's what he's saying. Are you not noticing as these kingdoms come, as they go, as things shift, as things change, upheaval? Have you not noticed who's in the middle of all this? It's God. Stop taking him out of the middle of our world's problems. You do that whenever you worry and fret and make it about you. I mean, look who's active in everything, verses 8 and 9. Come, behold the works of the Lord. Are you know that I am God? Are you listening? Are you watching this? I want you to come near and see God at work. Look at what he's doing. Come, behold the works of the Lord, who's brought desolations in the earth, who makes wars to stop and to the end of the earth, who breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariots with fire. It's God who's in control of all of this mess. Not you, not some president, not some government, not some nation, not some continent, not somebody. It's God. Every single time. And that will never change. Some of us getting worried, fretting about the next election. Why? I mean, you do your part, but you got no control over that. You can beg and plead and picket and do all you want to do. You got no control over it. I mean, you may get millions of people to do things your way, and still it can go wrong. Why? How? Because you're not in the middle of this. God's in the middle of it. God is the one with all the strength. This makes this verse even sweeter, Ephesians 3 and verse 20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably, abundantly more than I can ask, than I can imagine, according to the power at work in us. Because to know God means that you look to Him. You seek after Him because He's in the middle of all of this. And your job and my job, when nations rise and governments fall and people rise and fall or do whatever they do, our job is to keep asking God to be right in the center of it and God's will be done. And so now what I want to do for you is I want to give you two lists. List number 1 are the 9 things that you can control. List number 2, the 9 things that you can't. Look at list number 1. You can write these down, take a picture of it, do what you need to do, because some of you are getting out of your list. These are the things you get to control in your life. What you focus on, how you love people, your behavior, your emotions, your prayer life, your thought life, how you rest, when you rest, how you walk by faith, and how you trust the Word, therefore trust God. Those are the things you get to control in your life. That right there. That's it. I mean, I know there's some other things we could put in there, but this just about encompasses all of it, doesn't it? That's what you get to control. And then there are the things that you don't get to control. Let's put this list up. Here they are. Changing people, people's actions, other people's emotions. The outcome, you don't get to control that. The future, no control. The past, none. God's timing, that's Him, not you. When growth happens and what other people think of you, you don't get to control any of this. All that's out of your control. And some of you, if you were to write these down, you'd take a red pen, you'd be marking about 6 or 8 of these that you're always involved in. Right, Chris? Thank you for your affirmation. Isn't this right? This is what we do right here. We try to control everybody else and everything else in our world instead of going, no. I'm going to control the things that I can control. Other than that, I'm going to rest at peace in God. That's exactly what I'm going to do today. And that's exactly your job. Now, brethren, let me read to you a really sticky situation and how Jesus handled it according to the precepts of what we just studied today. You ready for this? This sticky situation is in all 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all 4. Some of them bring more detail than others, particularly John, but I want to read you Matthew's account. It's in Matthew chapter 26, and it starts in verse 47. And here's what the text says. Here's what Matthew recorded. When he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived, and with him a large crowd armed with swords and clubs. They're ready for battle. Sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal for them. What's the signal? The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and he kissed him. Jesus replied, "What have you come for, my friend? Do what you've come for, my friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword. We find out through John who this is. It's Peter. He reached for his sword. He drew it out, struck the servant. He got out of his list. Y'all seeing this? He jumped onto this list, into the area that's out of his control. He struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Look at what Jesus said. Put your sword back in place. You know what he told him? Be still. Lay it down. This isn't your battle to fight. Peter. And some of us are just like this. We're walking around in this world with a sword in one hand and a Bible in the other, and we're just trying to cut people to pieces. And we've made the world our enemy. And the world is not our enemy. Satan is our enemy. The world is lost. They don't know any better. Why are you trying to cut everybody's ear off? Put your sword back. This isn't your battle to fight. And then, that's not it. Here he goes on. He says, put it back in its place, Jesus said, because for all who draw the sword are going to die by the sword. This is not the way you want to end things. This isn't the hill that you want to die on. This isn't your battle. And then look what he says. Don't you think, Peter, fellas, because I'm pretty sure that all the other guys had their hand on their handles or had them out, ready to go. Guys, don't you think, can I not call my Father, and he will at once at my disposal issue more than 12 legions of angels? And all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you're right. Man, I forgot that you had that kind of power. Brethren, what are you worried about? What are you fretting over? What are you trying to control? It's out of your control. Put your swords back. Put your weapons down. It's not up to you. It's just not up to you. The battles you can control, do what's right with them. That first list, do what's right there. That battle in your head, your thinking, your emotions, how you respond to people, how you act, how you pray, how you study, why don't you work on those battles? Because when you start stepping into God's territory, God goes, whoa, don't you know I can call angels to do, I don't need you in this position. Why don't you control the things that you need to control? Brethren, is all this making sense today? Because if you don't, you're trying to take my job from me, and you're not going to do any good at that. Notice in your life how every time you jump onto this list right here, it just stinks, man. It's terrible. It's a horrible day, turns into a horrible week, a horrible month, and that equals a horrible life. Because you are in an area that you can't control. You are fighting battles that are not yours to fight. Be still. Lay it down and know God. Look to God. Go to God. Because he'll fight them for you. Because the battle belongs to the Lord. So the battles you cannot control, drop those weapons. And look up. And listen to God. Because he's got this. Every single time he's got this. No matter what it is. He's got it. So I want to challenge you with this. If your battle, the battle that you're in right now, is outside of your control, you need to stop fighting and let God defend you. Today, it's time to be still. It's time to let it drop. You fight your own personal battles, the things that you can't control. If you've gotten on that other list, repentance is yours today. You're trying to manipulate and control things that are outside of your control, and it's making you miserable. And it's making the people that you love around you miserable because you're simply trying to control things that are outside of your control. Today, be still. Let it drop. And let God take the fighting back. However it is that we can help you today, we are the family of God, the Church of Jesus Christ. And we're here to help you, to walk with you, to pray with you. Some of our shepherds will be down front. Some of them will be in the back. They'll be there to help you. If you're not a Christian today, You're fighting all kinds of battles that you will not win. The battle of sin, you won't win that one. But God already did through Jesus Christ. Then come to Him today as we stand, as we sing together.